dad's dream to talk about his favorite team with the son digging the stats. Come and join us, nerding on the Dbacks.
Hello, welcome to Nerding on the Dbacks.
Yeah, the best
And only
father-son baseball show.
in America.
Yeah. We don't ever practice these ahead of time, so
No, we
I don't
don't.
think about it. But let's just say Egypt. Not Egypt.
No, the pyramids.
Yeah.
We'll just say pyramids.
Do you think you could play baseball inside a pyramid? Do you think
Yeah.
it was big enough inside?
If you didn't have all the stuff in there, probably.
Our pyramids, yeah.
I bet it could.
I don't
fit
think they're
this-
really hollow. No.
Bro, they have a
Yeah.
lot of stuff in them.
Yeah.
Like
If you
dead
could
people.
hollow out a pyramid, that would be a great place for a baseball game.
Yes.
All right, so I'm Dad, a.k.a. Chris,
They should make a game about that. The
Yeah.
Egypt game.
in Egyptian baseball.
Egyptian
Who are you?
baseball. Oh, I'm Sun/Phoenix.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Since you're here, first thing I want to throw out there is please like, comment, subscribe, and also channel your inner kindergartner. And
Share.
yeah. So if you're joining us for the first time, we do this show every week, which is the kind of recap show. And then once a week, we also do the Did You Really Just Say That baseball game show, the greatest game show in all of Talk Sports. If you haven't checked in with us for that, please do. I think you'll enjoy it. Though it sounds like from, I guess I should say, the analytics show that you guys check into that more than you check into this. So I get it. That show is so much fun.
Fun for us and probably fun for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So on these recap shows, rather than discuss individual games or series where you can go to other podcasts and other shows out there that'll do recaps like that, we prefer to kind of look at the big picture of the season and where they are right now and where they're going and where they've been, rather than just segments. And then also we like to focus more on performance than production, which means basically that ball that we went to that game, right? Wednesday, no, Tuesday. We were at the game Tuesday, and in the bottom of the ninth, there were 2 outs, and the Twins had a runner on second, and an absolute just rocket was hit out to Lourdes Gurriel, right? So hard, and Lourdes Gurriel caught it for the 3rd out to end the game.
Yep.
That ball had an expected batting average of 950. That means that 19 out of 20 times that ball is hit, that ball is struck, it goes for a hit. And Gurriel, but it was hit pretty much right at Gurriel.
Yeah.
He just had good positioning on it. So what I'm saying is that I'd rather have a guy who smashes line drives with a 950 run expectant or batting average expectancy over and over and over, even if it does get caught, than a guy who hits a bloop single in that situation that happens to score Buxton from second. And so yeah, that's it. I just want to focus on performance more so than production. So thanks. On our personal life, let's take a little bit of time to talk about our personal life. It's been a lot of clouds, but we've been getting a lot of sun and spending a lot of pool time. It's been great.
It's Arizona, so
Yeah. The
sun is closer to us than the whole world.
I'm not sure what that means, but
See, the sun, whenever
is it on a string?
it's like when the Earth is facing the Arizona, the sun comes closer to Arizona.
Oh,
But when it's facing Antarctica, it just goes back.
yeah. I mean, we are closer to the equator.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's what my
Okay.
teacher told me.
Yeah, that makes some sense. It's a strange explanation of it, but yes, essentially we're closer to the equator, so that's why we are closer to the sun.
Oh.
Yep. So
No. Mine's better.
okay, it's just like it's that paddle game with the ball and the rope where you hit it, and when it's a long way away, that's when that's not Arizona, and then as it gets closer.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we had lots of sun and pool time. This is kind of a crazy thing. We had a giant tree branch crack off of our one tree. It's a big tree, and fall in our front yard.
In our driveway.
Yeah, in our driveway. Luckily, no one was hurt. It was overnight, and there was no damage.
We were hurt mentally.
Well, I mean, yeah, we are scarred. We've realized now after we got cleanup that we have another branch that's cracked, and we're having a team come out to cut it down before it falls on its own sometime next week. But it's kind of frightening. I'm considering cutting it myself since the landscaping team can't be out here until next week. It's frustrating that they can't be out here. Almost as frustrating as the Dbacks fight to 500.
That was a very good segue.
Thank you.
We were like Paul Blart Mall Cop segueing down the mall.
I love that. I can't believe you know who Paul Blart is. I feel like you were not even born when that movie came out.
Well, I've watched a lot of YouTube, so yeah, I've learned about him. This segue.
Yeah. So the D-backs this past week have lost ground, unfortunately.
Lost ground.
Yeah, on their fight to 500. They're now 3 games under 500 after dropping 2 of 3 to the Twins, as well as in the past week the Phillies. Well, that was more than a week ago, but yeah. It's been a rough go, and so they need a sweep of the A's here in this weekend series coming up to finish June at 500 on the season. And that is a prediction that you made. Did you really just say that? More than a month ago.
Come on, it's the A's. They have like no players. Come on.
They got some pretty rough, like we talked about, on the last episode. I think of all of the 3-game series that the D-backs will play this season, I think this weekend series against the A's is their most likely to sweep a 3-game series.
Are they home or away?
They're home. They're facing really, really bad left-handed pitching. And so I think they got a shot at this.
Well, hold on. Last time they faced a left-handed...
a really bad left-handed pitcher.
They got smacked.
Yeah, they did get smacked. Yeah, that was pretty rough. So, I want to see how they can come out of this, and let's talk a little bit about who's hot and who's not for the past week, so that we can discuss where we think they're going next. So, what do we start with, Phoenix, for your who's hot, who's not segment?
Well, we always thought with the Nellies, as I would call it, the hot guys.
Yeah, the hot guys.
The very hot guys.
There we go. Got to get that brought up. And boom. Maybe. I said it's getting hot in here. That pause was for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got going on for the past week, Phoenix?
All right. I'll start with the pitchers this Wait, did I start with the hitters last time? I can't remember. All right.
You always start with the pitchers.
All right. I always start with the pitchers. Okay. So, for the starting pitcher, I picked Brandon Pfaadt.
Ooh,
yeah.
Foddy. I think this unfortunately gets down to why the D-backs have lost ground over the past week.
Oh. Well, he has 5.668 innings pitched, 4 runs, all earned, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 2 home runs.
Yeah. So that's not a very good line, and that was our best pitching performance over the past week. Really kind of highlights the issue that the D-backs have been having. Because I can't imagine another situation where they that's got to be the worst starting pitching line that we've had from a who's hot, who's not pitcher.
Yeah.
All season. So yeah. Pfaadt, at least, I'm not surprised that it's Pfaadt. Pfaadt's been holding it together for the most part for the pitching staff. He's kind of been the only reliable pitcher that the D-backs have had. So yeah, and we were at that game. I mean, it was a great start. He pitched, he pitched it into the. I think the innings are wrong on here, but that's all right. I believe he pitched into the 7th inning, and he just gave up a 3-run homer in the 7th, and that was it. And that gave the team their 4 runs, and then they ended up coming back and tying it in the bottom of the 7th and winning the game. Thank goodness. But yeah, so go ahead. Who's hot? Relief pitcher.
Relief pitcher, Bryce Jarvis.
Ooh.
Yeah, 6 innings pitched, 2 runs, all earned, I guess. 0 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 0 home runs.
Yeah, I don't know how Bryce Jarvis does this. He doesn't have nearly enough innings for me to say that he's going to be an outlier of a pitcher, because he doesn't strike guys out. He has pretty much as many strikeouts as walks. He walks too many guys. He doesn't strike out enough, and he gives up homers. But somehow he sequences really well. I don't know if that's generally that's not a controllable skill. So sequencing is where, say, Jarvis gives up. He comes out. He gives up a walk, and then on the next guy he gets a double play ball, and then on the next hitter they hit a home run off him, right? Oh. Say that's the sequence of events.
Yeah.
He only gave up 1 run. But if he gives up those events in a different way, where say he walks the first guy, then he gives up a home run, then he gets a ground ball out, he's given up 2 runs instead. And so he's just really good at sequencing. I don't get that. It's usually not a repeatable skill, sequencing, so it makes me a little worried about his future. But nonetheless, it's great to see Bryce Jarvis up there. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So for the hitters, we got Ketel, Marte. So.
Did you pronounce his first name 3 different ways there?
Yes.
Yeah, you pick your favorite, crowd. Let us know what you think.
Ketel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I bet I have another one in the chamber, but I'm not going to say it. So, we got Ketel Marte. God.
I'm rubbing off on you.
So, for his OPS, he's a 1-er, 1.139. I said it right this time. He has 18 plate appearances.
Yeah.
1 double, 0 triples, 2 home runs, 1 walk, 4 runs, and 5 RBIs.
Yeah, dude had a rocking week. You think that's his? I can't imagine. We probably should have kept all these about who's hot and who's not. But you think that's his first appearance?
I don't know.
It might be. He's been steadily good, but he's almost always had other people every week who have been better than him. He's been often like the 2nd or 3rd best hitter most weeks.
I don't remember putting him on the who's hot list. So.
I don't necessarily remember him there either. That's interesting. We talk about him constantly on the show. We do. I mean, he's their best player.
Yeah, another person we talk about constantly.
Yep.
You see that segue? Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
Do you remember when he was on the cold list like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
That's what we did. We got him off, baby.
Yeah.
Snaps. Woo. Tell us about how Lourdes has been playing.
I don't think he can understand us. But so his OPS is .875, 16 plate appearances, 1 triple, 0 home runs, 1 walk, 1 run, 2 RBIs.
Yeah.
So I said he has the 2nd hugest OPS.
I love it. Hugest.
Yeah, I did not mean to type hugest. I kind of just I meant to type highest. But
I like hugest more. That's best. That's awesome.
Yeah. So rookie mistake.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be great. So yeah, that was Lourdes. So I'm not being biased. Okay.
Oh, all right.
So for the cold ones.
Yeah.
Ice babies.
The ice baby.
Ice baby.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. I just want to go back to Lourdes for a second. Yeah, while he hasn't had a lot of opportunities to get involved in the scoring, he has been hitting really well over the past week. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's been super fun. Yes.
Because of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can do it without us. So we got the Ice Babies for the starting pitcher, Baby Ice. Jordan Montgomery, he has 8.2 innings pitched, 10 runs, 6 of them earned, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 1 home run.
This is his second appearance in the last 3 weeks on this list, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's not good. He's been on here a lot too this season.
Yeah.
And that's in a rotation with Slade Ciccone and Ryan Nelson a lot of that time too. That's not good. Oh, yeah. Monty, I don't know what to make of him. He's an enigma.
Yeah, I would have put Tucker Barnhart, but you know.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that here in a second. Yeah. All right, so who's the ice pitcher, relief pitcher?
We got Scott McGuff. He has 4.2 innings pitched, 8 runs, all of them earned, 4 strikeouts, 5 walks, and 2 home runs.
Yeah, that's not good by Scott McGuff. Kind of what you expect a little bit. Scott McGuff is not. He just doesn't have anything left in the tank, I don't think. Thank goodness we have Miguel Castro coming back soon.
Yeah.
And Zach Gallen. That's all I can say. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but.
Yep. So for the hitters, we got Corbin Carroll.
The ice hitter.
Yep, the ice hitter.
Yeah.
I think he was just on the hot list, and now he's on the cold list.
Yeah, he was. He was on scorching hot fire last week. I think he had a 1.3 for the week previous, a week ago. Yeah.
But now his OPS is .333. He has 18 plate appearances. I think this is the most boringest stat line ever. Zero doubles, 0 triples, 0 home runs, 0 walks. Oh, no, it's fine because he has 1 run, 0 RBIs, 0 steals.
Yeah, that is the most boringest stat line ever. It looks like we have somebody who tried to match him, though.
Yeah, we got I think he was also on the hot list last week.
Yeah, it was those 2 guys.
Jock Peterson. I always say it French. His OPS is .180. That's just crazy. He has 17 plate appearances. Again, the most boringest stat line. 0 doubles, 0 triples, 0 home runs, 0 walks. Oh, it's fine because he has 1 run. It's fine. 0 RBIs, 0 steals.
Yeah, that is crazy. The 2 guys who are on the hot list last week are on the cold list this week.
Yeah.
You know what that means? We're calling them out. We're gonna give them a little pep talk. Jock, you got the big. Okay. And so, I know what you can do at the plate. Just drop it. Drop it like it's hot. Right on that plate. Bring that big lumber.
Okay, stop.
To the box.
Stop.
And stroke it.
No.
You got this, buddy. And Corbin, your swing had been turning around. It's kind of crazy because this is the first time. This is like the first this is like the first period of like 4 games, 5 games, 6 games all season that Jock Peterson has not been awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Corbin,
he's always been great.
Corbin had a little bit of a setback. He had been one of our better hitters for most of the month, but he did really have a rough past week, both those guys. So we need them to get back at it. Corbin, you got it in you.
Yeah.
Yes. And Jock, drop it like it's hot.
But I want to say...
Grip it and rip it.
But I want to say, guess who's not on this list? On the cold list?
Ooh.
Gino!
Gino, you got lucky. Someone else has been worse than you. That's all that means. Because what was his OPS for the past week? Do you remember?
I didn't even look.
You didn't think to look, yeah.
He was kind of like up. I think.
Yeah. I mean,
it must have been like 5.
Oh yeah,
something.
yeah. Pretty much just what he does. 500. Yeah, his OPS is 500. So tell us about Tell us the pitcher that you almost put on this list for who's hot, the relief pitcher.
Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah, Tucker Barnhart. Because how many innings did he pitch?
He pitched one.
Yeah.
Inning.
How many runs did he give up?
I don't know, like 18 or something. I don't remember.
Wasn't it 0? Maybe I'm wrong.
I can't. I didn't even look at his runs.
Yeah. So
his ERA is 18, but
yeah. So you were asking me. Tell me what you said when you saw that.
Tucker Barnhart's a relief pitcher.
And I said, well, when a team is getting blown out, they'll sometimes just throw a position player instead of burn one of their bullpen arms, right?
So you're telling me a catcher threw to a catcher?
Yeah. Actually, I am telling you that. So yeah, and we don't watch many of the games in blowout mode, unfortunately.
Did the pitchers,
especially you don't. So you usually. So I know you've never seen that before.
Except for that one time when that pitcher threw 54 miles per hour at the guy and hit him in the shoulder, and he just
But that was a highlight. Yeah. That's pretty funny. So he's just goofing around. So yeah, MLB actually has a rule in place about position players pitching. Yeah, I don't know how many of you out there know this, but anytime a team gets down by 8 or more runs in the game, they can bring in a position player to pitch. But if they are down by less than 8 runs, they cannot. A team can also bring in a position player to pitch if they are up by 10 runs and it's the 9th inning. But you rarely see that because, you got to be up by a lot. You do not want to give that opposing team any opportunity to come back in that game. It's just very, very rare that you see a team that is winning the game ever go to a position player.
Did another pitcher swap to catcher?
I imagine Tucker Barnhart didn't start the game.
Did Tucker Barnhart throw it really high, and then he put on his catcher gear really fast and
like an old Disney show. Yeah, and I think Goofy does that in Goofy. How to Play Baseball. If you haven't watched How to Play Baseball, it's a good video. Go check it out Goofy. On Disney Plus.
He throws the ball. He changes really quick. He stops time or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be
funny.
So
there is a picture. There is an ad where a couple of years ago where Clayton Kershaw of Dodgers infamy was a pitcher in the commercial, and he threw a pitch that he doesn't even throw in real life, which is really weird. And it got hit, and he ran through a bunch of different things out in the world to go catch it before it hit the ball. Oh. Yeah, it is weird that they did that, but so anyway,
ran through the Eiffel Tower.
There was an instance. I'm trying to remember this. I remember seeing a highlight of it. I think it was Williams Astudillo. This was 6 or 7 years ago. Williams Astudillo came on to pitch once, and he was. A lot of the guys who come to pitch, they don't want to hurt themselves. So they throw slow, like you said, 50, 60 miles per hour. Some of them maybe top out around 75. And Williams Astudillo came in, and he was pitching in a garbage time game. And he was throwing so slow. I think it was Williams Astudillo. I'm not certain. But he was throwing so slow that it didn't even pick up on the radar gun. It was crazy.
If you didn't see how the pitcher threw, you would think that he threw underhand.
The ball was going off the screen at the top and then would come back in. And he was throwing it for strikes. It was crazy. And so I actually looked up to see how slow a ball had to be to not show up on the radar gun. And it said that it's a little bit under 35 miles per hour. It's got to register at least 34.6 miles per hour for it to show up on the radar gun. So he was throwing slower. He was throwing in the low 30s, which is kind of crazy. And he was throwing it for strikes. Somebody, if I recall, if it was the same game, somebody on the opposing team hit a home run off of him.
Of course they did.
Yeah, you're throwing beer league softball pitches at that point. So yeah, very cool. Well, thanks for the segment. And let's see Carol and Jock turn it around. Though I don't know how good that Jock's not going to get a lot of opportunities against the A's since they got 2 lefties going. But we'll see him Sunday for sure, and he'll probably get a pinch hit appearance, maybe 2. over the next couple of games. So awesome. Woo.
All right.
So let's talk about the team as a whole here, and not just the last week, but where they, what they've been doing and how things are looking. So we're going to start with the good news, right?
We always start with the good news.
Okay, we're leading. The offense and defense continue to perform at a rather at a good to great level. So the OPS versus right-handed pitching on the season now is about average. It's awesome.
Yeah.
In June, they've been better than average, which is fantastic. Their OPS in general as a whole for the season is slightly above average. And their OPS versus left-handed pitching is still great. They're still I think they're somewhere between 5th and 8th in the league for hitting left-handed pitching. They've come down a little bit, and it's not so much that they've come down as other teams have started hitting lefties harder. They just kind of been getting past. But yeah, they're still pretty good. Their defense is a top 10 defense as a whole. It depends on what metric you use. FRV.
What does FRV mean?
So FRV is fielding run value. It's a newish everything defensive metric that Baseball Savant has put out, and it's using all the StatCast data, and it pegs the D-backs as the third best defense in Major League Baseball this season.
Wow.
Yeah. So
is it good, or is it what's the best defensive metric?
I would actually say because StatCast uses all. There's no judgment data used in StatCast at all. It's pretty much just this is the algorithm, and if it passes the algorithm, it passes the algorithm, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's really it. As opposed to defensive runs saved, which is using some judgment. Someone's kind of sitting there and looking at every single play and making a judgment on it, and so, or at least that's how my understanding of defensive runs saved works. And so I would actually say FRV is probably the best defensive metric out there at this point. It's newish, so we'll have to see how it stands up, but I would weight it a little bit heavier. I don't know that I would say the D-backs are the third best defensive team in baseball, but I would say maybe they're probably top 5. I'm willing to put them somewhere in that 3 to they're probably fourth or fifth best defense in baseball, so not far off. Okay. So they've been playing good defense. So in the non-pitcher half of the team is doing great. They're doing their part. Ketel Marte, Ketel Marte in particular has been playing pretty much out of his mind in the month of June in particular, and all season for the most part.
Despite the who's hot segment.
Yeah, despite the who's hot segment. Yeah, he has been far and away, even though I think that's his first appearance on the who's hot list for the month, he has far and away the highest OPS on the team for the month of June as a whole. And that's what I mean. He's just consistently really good. Really, really good.
Maybe I should do a who's hot, who's not for the month.
We could do that on the next episode to recap June. We could do something like that.
All right.
Yeah. And so, despite him playing so fantastic, he's kind of fallen behind in the MVP race because Ohtani and Harper have been even hotter, especially Harper. That said, Bryce Harper went on the IL last night with a mild hamstring strain.
Not the hamstrings.
Yeah, not the hamstring. Oh man, it's a funny word too. Hamstring. It kind of gives you a visualization of a string cheese, but made out of ham.
When I hear hamstring, I just visualize a hamstring.
Okay, all right. Well, to each their own, I guess.
Or a pig string. Pig on a string. I don't know.
All right. So
I thought this was a baseball podcast.
Yeah. Let's get it back on the rails. So Marte, now that Harper has gone down, has a chance to gain some ground on him, and especially facing a couple of poor left-handed pitchers this weekend. Hopefully he can do that, because
The
if
D-
you don't know this, Marte he absolutely destroys left-handed pitching. He's a good hitter versus right-handed pitching. He's an amazing hitter versus lefties.
I don't know. Terrible left-handed pitchers are kind of a threat to the D-backs.
Stop saying it or you're going to make it come true again. So he's at least leading the second base all-star vote now over first baseman Luis Arias. Seriously, Arias doesn't even play second base for the Padres. He's played almost exclusively first base since he got traded to the Padres. Yet he isn't even eligible on the all-star ballot as a first baseman. He is only eligible as a second baseman. It's so crazy. Kettle's got that now, got first place for that vote. And if you haven't been voting, please continue to vote. Vote for our guy. Let's get Kettle in there.
Or Lourdes. Just kidding.
I love Lourdes, but he don't deserve to be in the All-Star game this year.
Hey.
Last year he could have. It would have made sense. So the one exception to non-pitchers, like I went through and I looked at all of the non-pitchers for the month and what their OPS was. Basically all the guys who have, taking out Tucker Barnhart. Actually, Barnhart, I think, might have even been on that list. But just all the real part-time players, I put it at a minimum of, there's no way Barnhart was on the list. I put it at a minimum of 40 plate appearances. And almost everyone was at least a league average hitter or better. There were only 3 guys who were below league average, and 2 of those guys were less than 10% below league average for OPS for the month. But there was one name that stood out really egregiously at the bottom of that list, about 40 points below everybody else. Care to guess who that was? All right, time's up.
Lourdes Gurriel.
No. It was Eugenio Suarez.
Eugenio.
Yeah, Eugenio Suarez. Yeah. And man, that's it. It's just been rough all season. So I want to put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it. But just remember that's the only player really that the team was counting on, if you will. The only other part that's really been frustrating has been they had Moreno go down. Gabby went down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they could have called up Adrian Del Castillo. Adrian Del Castillo, I haven't checked it in the last few days, but he was leading all of the PCL at AAA in OPS. So for those of you who don't know, that's basically like he is to Major League Baseball what Shohei Ohtani, or he has been to AAA what Shohei Ohtani has been to Major League Baseball, except for he's been doing it as a catcher. That's crazy.
Being a catcher is hard.
Yeah, he has more than 100 points he was more than 100 points of OPS ahead of the second place catcher on the list. And I don't get why they didn't call him up. It's so weird. It's very frustrating.
There could have been many things.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't just give him a taste. He's 24 years old. There's no reason to keep him down. He's got nothing more to learn. By all accounts, like by scouting reports from Baseball America and Fangraphs, he seems like a very reliable defender at catcher. So I don't get it. I definitely would have brought him up to let him start 6 games while Moreno was down. It sounds like Gabby's going to only be on the list for the minimum, so he's going to be coming back next week.
Well, maybe he didn't have an option.
He does. He has all of them. They would have to clear a spot on the 40-man, but as we've discussed, Joe Jaquez can just be cut. He doesn't matter. Joe Jaquez just bye. And let's call up. Or you could just have cut Herrera and brought up DFA'd Herrera and brought up Del Castillo. I don't know. I just don't get it.
Or Tucker Barnhart because he's a catcher.
Yeah, but you don't want to cut you need 2 catchers. So you'd want to keep Barnhart on the roster still.
Well, never mind.
Yeah. So anyway, just a little thing. It's not huge. It's just one of those things that I feel like the move in a vacuum isn't that big of a deal, but it's more of like a mindset about how they just keep going to these
Did you just say the move in the vacuum?
in a vacuum. Like if that was the only questionable roster decision that the D-backs had been making all season, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But that they
How does that portray to a vacuum?
so a vacuum means that like in the vacuum of space where there's nothing else, it's just nothingness. And so it's a phrase that people use in a vacuum, not like a vacuum to clean your house.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking of. That's the only vacuum I think of.
So it's
Unless
just one of
it's
those.
a name.
It just kind of goes like it goes to the same thing that we've talked about with the relief pitchers, that they keep just instead of calling up some of their young fireballers that they have in the minors, they keep just claiming bad relief pitchers from other teams, including the Rockies, and having them take up 40-man space and sometimes space in the 13-man Diamondbacks roster as well. And I'd rather just see them give a shot, even if it's just a short little time, to somebody else who has more upside. Their downside is probably no worse than what the crappy veteran is, whereas their upside could be, I mean, you could have brought Del Castillo up, and who knows, he's been hitting really well. He could have gone off for like 3 home runs in those 6 games, and maybe they win in extra games because of it. They're definitely not going to lose any more games by bringing him up and trying him out versus Jose Herrera. So that's all. It's just a thought process. It's the principle of the thing is really frustrating because they keep doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And we might have to deal with it again with when a decision comes down on Alek Thomas when he returns next week. And do they DFA Suarez or do they send down Blaze, who's been good, and deserves to stay on the roster?
What about McCarthy?
I would be very shocked if they sent down McCarthy, but you're not wrong. They could do that as well. Yeah. So it's just, they just keep, even if it's not somebody that's in the organization, they just keep sticking with these like quad A player veterans instead of giving opportunities to possibly quad A rookies, but at least the upside is a lot better than quad A, where the upside on quad A veterans is quad A veterans.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all. So the starting pitching, as we discussed with Brandon Pfaadt having kind of a rough line and still being the best pitcher of the week. It's kind of cratering. Just the starting pitching in general has not been very good. Gallen comes back tomorrow, which is not soon enough, unfortunately. Hopefully they haven't dug themselves too much of a hole. And Montgomery came crashing back to earth versus the Twins. I wouldn't worry about it so much because the Twins, if you guys don't know this, D-backs are good against left-handed pitching. The Twins are phenomenal against left-handed pitching. I would not be surprised after the shellacking that they put on Monty if the Twins move to the top of the league in OPS versus left-handers. They were at number 2 or number 3. I think they were tied for number 2 in OPS versus left-handers going into that game.
With who? Who were they tied with?
I don't remember. But the point is, they just crush lefties as a team. They got so much right-handed power. They're just a tough lineup for a lefty. So, a really tough lineup. So, but the problem is that if that had just happened once and he'd been relatively good for most of the season outside that, I wouldn't really be too worried about it. But that kind of start has been more of the norm than the outlier for the entire season.
Do you want to talk about, just on the show, not right now, but about what Joe Summers said about...
Oh, yeah, we will bring that up. Absolutely. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, so...
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, so Nelson and Ciccone continue to look suspect as well. Ciccone is really hit and miss. He looks either like a solid mainstay in the rotation, or he looks like some guy who doesn't even belong. Where Nelson is typically average to below average. Like he's just, he had a really rough start this past week, but he had strung together quite a few starts in a row where he went at least 5 innings and only gave up 3 or 4 runs, 5 at most. So,
Yeah.
I don't expect a ton out of those guys, but it's just been a rough go. Fought, like we said, only pitcher in the rotation who really inspires any confidence. And the issue with the D-backs, Ciccone kind of, you go out and you kind of hope that he might be able to give you a gem because he's the only other guy on the team who seems to be capable of that right now or in the rotation. But he also is probably the guy most susceptible to getting completely blown up as well. So you never know. And then, you just got to, the rotation's just got to hold on. Like you said, get Gallant back. The problem is that doesn't take any of these guys out of the rotation. The D-backs have just been rolling with a bullpen game in Gallant's spot since he got hurt.
Yeah.
So they've just been treading relievers, carrying 9 relief pitchers. And then getting healthy is the only way to get better. And once Gallant's back, they're just going to have to keep rolling with Ryan and Slade for the next probably close to month. I don't know. I would think that it's probably going to be the end of July before we see Rodriguez take the mound for the D-backs.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, it's just a while. They're just taking it super, super slow, which if they can hang on, that's not a horrible thing, but they got to hang on. And then the bullpen continues to rock in high and medium level situations and still getting rocked in low leverage situations. And this is what you were talking about. Jack Summers, a.k.a. Shoe Wizard on X, he posted that the D-backs, and I don't know if he had posted this yet, but the D-backs are, adding in the last couple of games, now 1-37 when trailing by 2 runs at any point during the game. And that is the definition of low leverage. We've been talking about how in medium and high leverage, when a game is close or the D-backs are ahead, that they, particularly close because the D-backs don't get ahead by a lot very often. So when the game is relatively close and the D-backs are ahead, they have one of the top 5 bullpen performances in the entire league, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do great. They barely give up any runs. However, when they fall behind by 2 or more runs, they bring in their D list of relievers, and it is an F performance.
You sound like a teacher right now.
They are legitimately one of the worst. If not, I wouldn't be surprised. They might now have the worst low leverage bullpen performance in all of baseball.
Oh wow.
I didn't check it, but I know they were 28th or 29th just a week ago. So they didn't do themselves any favors with the way they pitched the last week.
Yikes.
So yeah.
Especially the last Twins and D-backs game.
Yeah.
That was
yeah, they gave up lots of runs there.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a depth problem. The top 5 relief pitchers that the D-backs have, they're good to great. Like they legitimately are good, anywhere from good to great. And I would compare them favorably. Like I would stack those top 5 D-backs relievers up against any other top 5 relief pitcher core but on any other team in Major League Baseball. But those bottom 3 pitchers, 4 pitchers, Jarvis is kind of weird. I don't put him in that top 5, but while his performance hasn't really been indicative of a good pitcher, his production has been. So we're just going to roll with that for now.
You just say indicative?
Yep, indicative.
What does that mean?
It means like...
Hopefully not something bad.
No. Indicative. It means indicating. It means to be indicating of something.
If I said that in class, I would get a call home.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would.
No, you wouldn't. Just don't enunciate. Don't put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, and you'll be all right. Indicative. It'll actually make you. Your teacher will be very impressed with your expansive use of the English language.
Yes, I know. I'm very indicative
It means
about my vocabulary.
It means what it seems to be like, kind of. That's what indicative means. So
I'm going to use that a lot.
There you go, kids. Overall, when you combine the back and the front, like those good pitchers and those bad pitchers, they come out to an about average bullpen in general. But they have seriously two crazy distinct classes of pitchers out of their bullpen. It's really crazy. Good news is Miguel Castro is likely to be back with the team for the Dodgers series next week. And with Gallen coming back and Castro coming back, we'll probably see two of the biggest bullpen offenders being Brandon Hughes and Scott McGough sent back to Reno.
Offenders?
Yeah, so, and that'll help.
Did they go to court?
No, but they should probably be put in Dbacks jail, like Dbacks timeout.
Timeout, okay.
It'll help stabilize the bullpen, those bullpen results immensely. And the reason why is while Gallen's not a relief pitcher, it means we'll need him being a starter means we'll need a lot less innings out of the bullpen, probably somewhere in the realm of like 6. I know Gallen only pitches maybe 6 innings a game, but it's going to be more than 6 innings that they will need less of from the bullpen because of the compounding effect of him being there. And then Castro means when they do have low leverage situations.
You look like you're doing an orchestra.
For those who can't see me, just imagine I look like the conductor up here talking with my hands.
Dun, 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 dun,
And so Castro being in there means they will have higher quality innings pitched when they do have to go to the bullpen, especially in those low leverage situations. So the team could use a relief pitcher at the trade deadline still, preferably a lefty, as Mantiply is the only reliable lefty out in the D-backs entire system. He's the only guy. Brandon Hughes is like their second best lefty on the 40-man roster, and he's awful.
He's not.
He's not good.
He's the first word, but not the second word.
Yeah.
Second best.
Right. And so that's funny.
Yeah, pull that one out.
I think at this point I'd maybe be more interested in seeing Logan Allen get another shot at being the second lefty out of the bullpen than keeping Brandon Hughes up. So that brings us to an early trade deadline discussion. I wanted to bring this up because earlier I mentioned the starting pitching situation and that getting healthy is the only way that they're going to get better.
Is this what you were going to bring up last show?
Yeah. And so I don't expect that they'll trade for a starting pitcher, because starting pitchers are really expensive at the trade deadline. What I mean by really expensive? What do you mean by really expensive, Dad?
Who's that? I didn't say that.
So
what do you mean by really expensive?
It means that you're going to have to give up really good prospects in your system for a starting pitcher, and that's really not worth it. Not with what the D-backs have on the horizon coming back. And if they have to roll with one of Ryan Nelson or Slade Ciccone, for the rest of August and September, because somebody else goes down or whatnot, that's not the worst thing in the world. It's fine if they only have one of those guys on the active roster or in the rotation anyway. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they trade for a relief pitcher, provided they can stay in contention. That said, if anything, the brazen Seawald trade by Mike Kazin at last year's deadline, when the team didn't really look all that close to contention, indicates that being within 4 or 5 games might be enough to convince ownership and the front office that they could still win that thing. So, especially with their starting pitching getting healthy, and maybe as we go down, maybe if they pick up someone on the offensive side of the ball as well, which we'll get to in a moment. So relief pitchers are readily available at the deadline, usually for cheap. It's hard to project what relievers are going to go because there's probably 15 relief pitchers that are traded at the deadline every season. It's a lot, maybe 20. Yeah. It's just nuts because even you look at like teams like the A's and the Marlins, just teams that aren't in it, like have no chance of winning anything. Yeah. They've each got 2-3 good relievers, 4 maybe good relievers out of the bullpen. And so they just flip them all all those bad teams just flip their relievers to pick up prospects for future seasons. And so
Yeah, they're just rebuilding. They're not trying to win anything right now.
Yep. So the D-backs don't need a stud.
It's like the Cardinals.
Cardinals are in a wild card spot right now. They're doing surprisingly good.
They are?
Yeah. They're ahead of the D-backs. D-backs hold the tiebreaker on them, but if they end up finishing the season tied, the D-backs will be ahead of them.
Well, last season they were.
Yes, they were terrible. And so you're correct.
Yes.
The D-backs don't need a stud out of the bullpen. They just need some stability. Stability from a relief pitcher at the trade deadline is usually just like a C-level prospect. And what I mean by that is someone that's in like the 15 to 20 range on a team's prospect list, maybe 15 to 25. But 15 to 20, give or take, on the front or back end, depending on how deep the system is. So nothing, no one who's going to be a difference maker, who is likely to be a difference maker in the future. And stability out of that 7-8 spot in the bullpen is huge. I mean, a huge improvement. When you go from having a relief pitcher who's constantly throwing up an ERA of 8, and you cut that in half by getting a relief pitcher who's just average and is putting up a 4 spot for their ERA, that's a insane. Like that's saving about 3 runs a week that you're giving up less of, and that's a huge difference. So yeah, that would be fantastic, and give them a chance to come back from some of those 2 or more run deficits from time to time.
Deficits.
Yeah. But where I think the team can likely make the biggest impact is by adding a strong side platoon third baseman. I think I've seen enough of Suarez. I don't need to, I feel like I can make a pretty good judgment on him, and he doesn't need to be on this team for the rest of the season. And so, what I mean by, so they just need to get somebody at third base who can hit right-handed pitching well. And so if you ever heard the term strong side platoon, it means
it means like somebody who can hit on a right-handed pitcher very, very well, and can just come into the game whenever he's needed.
Yes, or even be the starter if it's a right-handed pitcher to start the game. Yeah. So the D-backs have, the D-backs of the 2020, this isn't much different, but they have the 29th ranked OPS versus right-handed pitching in Major League Baseball out of the third base position. Everywhere else, they hit fairly well, except for their numbers in center field are pretty rough because of Corbin Carroll, but that's a temporary thing. And at even at shortstop, it's not too bad. And now they got Perdomo back, and they're Blaze and Newman haven't played much third base. In fact, Newman's start at third base yesterday was the first innings he's played at third base all season for the D-backs, which was crazy to me.
Wow.
Yeah. And Blaze has absolutely smashed left-handed pitching all season long as well. Like, he's up there with Grichuk and Marte for how well he's hit left-handers. So I've got no worries. Blaze could be what's called the short side platoon, or the weak side platoon.
What is the short side platoon?
The short side platoon means that they hit against lefties, because you hit 70% of at bats for a team or more are against right-handed pitchers typically, and lefties are about 30%. So the short side platoon player is the right-handed batter, and the strong side platoon is the left-handed batter typically. And so they just need someone who can hit right-handed pitching in that role. It would be such a huge improvement to go from 29th just to like 14th. Yeah. And so, like I said, Blaze and Newman both have hit left-handed pitching very well this season, but have been somewhere between bad and terrible versus right-handed pitching. So just by making a switch to those guys isn't necessarily going to solve the problem at third base. You're likely to get a little better offense, but not a lot better offense out of it. And so Lawler could have, at one point, Lawler might have been the answer to come up and play shortstop, and then Perdomo moves over to third base to be the strong side platoon player, and that's still a possibility. But Lawler is still out for probably the next couple of months still, as far as playing Major League Baseball, and that kind of puts him at a September arrival time, September 1st, and I just don't think that's enough time for him to be a realistic solution on the MLB roster. That's like not even giving him any time to play AAA, basically. So I just don't think that's happening. And while the offense versus right-handed pitching for the season is about average, that's primarily due, coming into June. We said all season that June was going to be the month that they're going to be able to put up a winning record and they're going to get back in the wild card race, right? From the before the season even started. And it's because they've done that for the most part. They've played pretty well in June, and they've been beating up on bad pitching staffs in June. And so that's part of the reason why their right-handed pitching numbers versus right-handers have gone back up. And I still think they're probably a slightly below average offense as a whole versus right-handed pitching.
Oh, yeah.
And they could definitely, the biggest place of improvement is obviously third base. And so when they're healthy, when all their pitchers are healthy, which may never happen, but third base definitely is their weakest spot. And so here are three, we're going to go through these kind of quickly, but three kind of low wattage trades, meaning they're not real big, sexy names. They shouldn't cost a lot, but they will take the D-backs from a position where they are almost dead last in the league. They're just like a bad week at third base away from being the worst team in the league versus right-handed pitching at third base, to being somewhere between like the 10th and 13th best third base offense. And if you pair them with Blaze Alexander, let's just say at third base, I really think you could probably get a performance that is 95% of the way to what Alex Bregman is, who is probably the best third baseman potentially on the trade market. But I don't think Bregman's going to be on the trade market. So then you got to start, because the Astros have been making a nice run and are getting themselves back into a playoff spot. So you got to find other places to make a trade. And so the first one goes by the name of Luis Guillorme.
Oh my God. I just can't say any of these names. every time you have to have a player that I just cannot say their name. Luis Guillorme.
Luis Guillorme.
Exactly.
Yeah, Luis Guillorme. And so he's a 29-year-old career role player. He's already changed teams once this season and is currently on the Angels. The Angels traded for him from the Braves. And he was just stuck on the Braves, and so they traded for him, got some value out of it.
He got a ring,
and
so
the Angels are in last place, so they're definitely going to be selling everybody under the age of 25, basically, selling everybody over the age of like 26 or 27, because the next good Angels team probably isn't coming along for the next couple seasons, and so. So they'll probably trade everyone away who's over 20, 26, 27 years old. He's a strong defender everywhere in the infield, and he bats left-handed. He has a reliable OPS plus of 104 for his career, which means for his career, he is, versus right-handed pitching, he has been an above-average hitter, slightly above-average hitter for his entire career, and he has a 110 OPS plus so far this season. So He's got just a small contract, $1.2 million. So it's not really much of an addition to the team's salary. So there's no argument really to be had there. It may not sound like the kind of player that moves the needle, but going from like I just mentioned, if you go from the 29th OPS in versus right-handed pitching, which is about 70% of plate appearances, to somewhere around 12 to 14, that would be a huge improvement for this team. It would just be a place where they could put up an extra few runs a week out of that, and that's insane. And he would probably be a defensive upgrade as well at third base.
Yeah.
And with him on the field, with Perdomo, Marte, and Walker, it'd probably be the best infield defense in all of Major League Baseball when those guys are on the field together. So
that's a big say.
Yeah, I really think that's probably true. So Like I said, the Angels will be open for business on anyone over the age of 25, 26 years old. He shouldn't cost a lot. Probably somewhere around, like, just toss him a number 15 to 17, somewhere between like a 14 to 17 prospect in the system. And
Well, what does that mean? A 15 to 17?
so every team has a list of prospects that get ranked by various organizations. And so usually they're kind of the same. Sometimes you get huge differences on one or two players on the list, but for the most part, someone who's in like the 10 to 15 range on one list is probably close to the 10 to 15 range on another list. And so it just means what their future is most likely to be. And so if you toss them a pitcher, you could probably, if you can get rid of someone in like the 16, 17, 18 range on that prospect list who's a pitcher, I bet they do it in a heartbeat, and you could have them. On the plus side, the Angels also have one of the most appealing left-handed relief pitchers in their bullpen. And so you could potentially trade with the Angels to get Luis Guillorme and Matt. Oh, why am I blanking on his name all of a sudden?
Well, his name is
Matt Moore.
Matt
Moore.
How do you forget that?
So if you could trade Guillorme, pick up Guillorme and Moore in one trade, you could get done with all of your trade deadline acquisitions in one deal.
You just said if you can get that guy's name, Luis
Guillorme.
What you said and more.
That's funny. All right, so this next one I don't think is really attainable because the Cardinals, like I said, are in a playoff position. But you could potentially, you could at least give them a call and see if they'd be willing to deal Brandon Crawford. He's a left-handed hitter. He's older, but he has a great glove. He's barely getting any playing time for the Cardinals. He's played in 16 games, not even started, but just played in 16 games all season. That said, the one thing he's done so far well in his minimal playing time is hit right-handed pitching to a tune of a 105 OPS plus. And for his career, he's hit, maybe you guys don't know this, he has hit right-handed pitching really well. I'm not certain of this, but I want to say his OPS plus versus right-handed pitching for his career is right around 120. He's been really, really good. And so he's a little older, but he'd probably be an upgrade again on defense at third base. The cost is probably going to be higher than dealing with the Angels. They probably want someone who's major league ready, which may be where this conversation starts and ends. That said, you maybe could give him a straight up trade for Kevin Newman. I love Kevin Newman, but might be a better roster fit for both teams. Because I believe the Cardinals would probably be better off with another right-handed hitting infielder who can play shortstop than a left-handed hitting infielder that can play shortstop. So it might just be a straight up swap between the two teams. I don't know. And if as a possibility, and if it's not Newman, they may want a relief pitcher or some depth, a depth starter like a Tommy Henry that could take a spot on the active roster. Maybe a Blake Walston, though he's hurt, so that's probably off the table. But I don't find that trade too likely, but Crawford does make a good target. And he's only got a $2 million contract, so again, money's not that big of a deal. The third and final position player is one Yoan Moncada. Can you try that one? Yoan Moncada.
You're on Moncada.
That's pretty close. So he plays for the White Sox, who is the only team in Major League Baseball this year who has worse hitting versus right-handed pitching than at third base than the Dbacks. But here's the kicker. Moncada's been injured for most of the season. He's only played 11 games. But he is expected back around the All-Star break. Over the last few seasons, he's been an above average bat in the same realm as Crawford and Guillorme versus right-handed pitching. He's actually been sometimes better versus than that. He is absolutely the best hitter on this list. No question about that.
Okay.
The White Sox are clearing house, and he's an attractive piece. He's almost certainly going to get traded. He's on the final year of his contract. But he still costs $12.5 million. So he probably actually is the the cheapest from a prospect perspective. He probably is going to cost the least amount of prospect capital to pick him up. So,
out of all these guys that you just said, who would you prefer?
I would absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. Good question. I would absolutely prefer Guillorme. He probably has little to no trade market whatsoever. Like, there's probably almost no other team in Major League Baseball that's going to call up the Angels and say, "Hey, can we throw you a prospect and have Luis Guillorme?" I just don't think that's going to happen. And so he's a nice low wattage player from a trade perspective. He doesn't hurt the pocketbook, so ownership's almost certainly going to say yes. There's almost no chance that they say no. And he would be the largest improvement outside of a relief pitcher, like a really good relief pitcher on this team. And so I mean, I honestly think if you were my case and you were like, "Hey, I don't know your name, GM of the Angels," but I don't know if that's how Hazen talks. And he said, and he just says, "Hey, I'd like to get Luis Guillorme. I'll throw you Luis Frias." That might even be too much, to be honest. Like, Luis Frias might be too much value to give up for Luis Guillorme. So that's just to give you an idea of where he is. And so I think that's probably the most that the Angels would ask for Luis Guillorme. And so I would do that deal in a heartbeat too. If it came down, there's almost no realistic player, no prospect that the Angels would realistically ask for in exchange for Guillorme that I would say no to if I was Hazen. I would get that guy in a heartbeat. That said, I mean, I actually think the White Sox could ask for too much for Yoán Moncada. Moncada's been a good player. He's just been hurt this year, and so he's kind of lost his value. He hit well last year. He hit the year before, but he's only going to have, 10, 12 games to show that he's healthy before the trade deadline when he comes back. So he's not going to have a lot of trade value because of it. And their ask could just be too much. Like, Luis Frias should also get the job done there. But I honestly, I'd take either of them. I just think from a team fit and what to keep flexibility on the roster and make sure that ownership is okay with it, Luis Guillorme would be my guy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So that's who I want.
What are you excited for?
Yeah.
Or are ready to watch for?
All right. So this upcoming week, weekend and week, just in general, I really want to see the D-backs sweep the A's. I keep talking about it on the show. I just think it's such a perfect setup for the type of team that the A's are and the D-backs are for the D-backs. I don't think the A's are the worst team in baseball by any means. I actually think the Rockies, the Marlins, and the White Sox are worse teams than the A's are. But I just think this specific series with the pitchers that the A's are throwing versus the D-backs, and that the A's just traded away their best hitter, Brent Rooker, a few days ago.
See, that name I can pronounce.
Yeah. It's a nice Anglo name for you. Yeah. and so I think it's perfectly set up. I think it's the perfect opportunity for the D-backs to sweep, get themselves to 500, and get themselves in the national conversation again. What about you, Phoenix? What are you most looking forward to this week?
I am so ready for Alec Thomas to return.
Me too. I miss him in the outfield. He's fun.
I miss him in general.
Yeah. So very cool. Well, we're already up against quite a bit of time here. We probably should have split this into 2 episodes. Maybe we'll consider that in future.
Yeah.
Just do 2 30s. I know we talked about that when we first started this up, but
no,
we could have just done a trade preview episode, and that was it. Really,
it's actually a 3:45.
Yeah,
you said 2:30s.
Funny. All right,
hilarious.
So we're gonna try to get this out to you guys. I hope you're still listening to this before the game on Friday, where the D-backs are gonna win their first of 3 against the A's.
First of many.
And so, please, if you've gotten this far, you obviously find something entertaining about us, even if it's cringe entertaining. And please like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, and most importantly, channel your inner kindergartner and
Draw. No, share.
you could draw too. Just don't leave your review like a kindergartner.
I think you should add more colors.
I don't even think it would be that. It would just be because they don't know how to use a keyboard and type out letters.
They don't even know the alphabet.
Right.
All right, here we go.
All right. So this is the kind of hot talk you get at Nerding on the Dbacks. Thanks for showing up, and on our way out, we're gonna leave you with a da 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 da.
No, we could have our little brother do it.
I'm not gonna be able to add that on. We'll do it on the next episode.
Okay, fine.
Da 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 da. Nerding. Da 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 da. On the da 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 da.
Dbacks.
Woo!